Yeah, I did. It's processing it. I probably won't upload it here for another hour or so, but uh okay.
Sounds like, well, no, I've already moved on to the next meeting.
Yeah, everything else is uploaded. So the only things that's not uploaded on currently on Canvas are the one I just made this morning for this, and then it'll be this one. So all the other objects are already uploaded from start to finish with some long-winded talk by me. No charge for that. Let's see. Let's finish. So yeah, this is where I think I've determined I would keep my half scale. I'm probably going to go to the A3 size sheet on this one. And this is where I can now determine my line type scales for these that I'm before I dimension maybe. So I will look at it from here, but this is grid pattern's a little bit busy, so I'll turn off my grid. That's what you always have control over when you're in the model space through the viewport. I'm going to still look like I'm on paper though. I'm not going to zoom in until I go to dimension it. Out here is I generally look at my line type scales out here on paper. It's just my habit. It's not that you have to do it any particular way, but so I'm just going to turn off the grid because that makes it harder for me to tell. But all of these look really fine, and I need to make them more coarse. And I think that's the nature of these small parts with the current line types that we have. And so really, really fine. So I'm just going to select one, the line, and I have my properties panel up so I can even see this quick access here. But my line type scale is one. I don't know. I might at least go to five. I tend to double this on the way up and then zoom out a little bit and look. I feel like I could go even a little coarser than five. I don't know what 10 looks like, but I'm going to double that now. It's just a total guess, and it's really your choice. As long as I can see the line type, I'm happy. So I think 10 looks fine. Like it's breaking up nicely. I see a nice that the hidden line is a consistent dash. And I'll just match all those properties to that one I just did. So I'm just going to pick that one and then pick all the rest to get them. Yeah. So that all my line. And it doesn't have to be that in every view the line type scale is the same either for each line. Usually it works out well and it's quicker if it is, but if you have to adjust a particular one in one view different than the other view, that's okay because I'm never critical. As long as I can just see the breakup, I still feel like my center lines are a little bit too fine as well. So I'll pick just the main center line and say maybe it's as well, maybe it's 10 as well. That's maybe a little coarse on a center line, I feel like. Yeah, I think 10's too coarse. So we're good for hidden. Maybe I'll just go to five and see. Yeah, five looks better. And so I think I'll match five on the lines, and then maybe I'll look at the center marks as I could click on one and see if I like it. Maybe I will here. Maybe five is a little bit too coarse for the center mark. So yeah, exactly. It is a total guess. Like two. Sure. I like it. Perfect. I love it. Yeah. You guys have a good weekend. I'll leave and see it. All right. It is the weekend. I wish it was a 3-day weekend. It's all right. I'll take two. Yeah, I think that's fine. Anything like I'm never, that's the only thing I'll ever say. I know some of our we on the rubric it will say, line tape scales, and it's just like I only will usually make a comment if I'm like, oh, those just look like solid lines or whatever. But I feel like sometimes on center marks when they're small like this, you may keep check. Don't beat yourself up too much to find one that finally breaks up. If our marks are really small and the line type scale just can't quite be break it up, that's okay on a small center mark like this. So this one did break up, but I feel like I've done a few on the inch template where I almost have to go to like a 0.00, 0.00 and to get it to break up, and that's because it's just a super small center mark. So this is fine. This is good. I'm ready to dimension. So I'm going to go into the viewport now and onto my dimension layer. I don't usually have to worry about that because I always set up that I'm always going to use the dimension layer for my anything on my annotate tab dimension. So let's do overalls and look at this part and then just start snapping dimensions where they may or may not fit. So overall, in the front view, so when I pull these, this is kind of goofy, right? But I just pull them vertical and then I snap them. I usually don't enter a dimension when I'm doing this. Whenever I'm doing this kind of work, I'm like, well, I don't know where it's going to end up. It's probably not going to be the intermediate dimension, so I'm really not even worried. I just snap it and get it out of the way, and then that's the overall there. The overall height, I can kind of already tell this is going to be outside here. And Riley just worked ahead a little bit, and he ended up wanting to detail the notch over here, and that is correct because I'm already looking at this notch saying the most visible features of this notch are really over on the left side of the front view. So I feel like that is where I'm actually bundle the dimensions for that. I know it breaks the rule, but the point is that if I want to dimension that over here in between views, I'm going to be pulling like a lot of extension lines over and across my visible object. So it's just going to break up clarity. So for that reason, I break the rule and I say, I think I'll put the details on the notch over here. And so that's all going to be going on. But maybe the overall height of this is maybe the front view is not the best for the overall height, and this one sitting right here in between views just catches my eye that this is probably the better or best position for the overall height dimension. It's going to probably be outside of the yeah. Anyway, I think this maybe yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. Not again. Also, but I thought that earlier.
And then the overall, this might be, and so the last like overall dimension I need is definitely the depth. And so I feel like I will probably choose this one as my overall depth up here somewhere. I feel like I'm also going to take care of the notch dimensions in this view. That's where they, or I could in the top two. So tomato, tomato, but over here, maybe it's a little better over here because I feel like maybe I'm going to have room and it kind of is the in-between view rather than detail the top notch over here. Just wouldn't be wrong. It would be the difference of a good or better practice. But definitely not bad to have done it. So there's overalls captured. And then I'm just going to start to break down features of this thing. So I've got overalls captured. Let's just look at features and maybe I'll look at maybe I'll just look at that notch since I pointed out that is a feature of this part. So let's think about its size and location. So really the size and location I can probably get right here. Here's the size, like there's going to be a width and a length, like an X and Y. For a rectangle part, there's going to be like generally rectangular features are going to have X and Y dimensions for size. And then they're going to have location is going to be maybe associated with the same dimension. So the location of that might be a little bit different, but let's look at size first. When I say size and location, size the first word in that saying. So size of this is definitely going to be this width here. And if I know this is going to be an intermediate dimension, this is when I can enter like 10. I don't know if it is, but that's how sometimes how I will use. You've picked a clean dimension that's vertically or horizontally aligned. These 2 points are on the same plane. So this will be a great place where you could enter 10 and have it be. Yeah, this is just, yeah, this is me just thinking totally like we're just kind of analyzing this. Like, I know this is going to be a size dimension. I don't even know where it's going to be in relation to the other. This is probably going to get a little busy here. So that's 30. The other size dimension is this one across here. The reason why I'm picking this view is because everywhere else it's hidden, right? It's hidden in everywhere. That is driving me here is because I'm like, well, this is visible. I can dimension it. So this way I could either choose probably to pull it here or I could pull it in between. Maybe the better choice would be up because it's an in-between dimension. And either way, I've got leader lines intersecting. So maybe I'll say this is 20 here. I don't know if it's going to be the intermediate one. And technically it's like I need to pull these back to the object edge. That one's going to stay down and across because I got to reach out over to it. That's its size. Now its location is up some distance. And that's all it needs is it needs just kind of it needs like one dimension to locate it. It's just up. And I think I'm going to use right where, like, since I've got the size in this view, I think I'm going to use the where it lives is right here. It's 35 up to that first notch. And then I would argue that this is kind of another like just start thinking down the road a little bit. What we have here is we start to have a stack up. These are called chain dimensioning. 1 point, like I lock in 1 point and then I lock in the other. That is starting to be down that chain dimensioning mentality. And why we kind of avoid chain. So I'll just repeat why we avoid chain dimensioning is because um, if this go well, if this go no, that's not that. It's actually the part, and I think of the creation of the part. So it's beyond just my dimension. What I'm thinking of is trying to visualize when this gets made. This person is going to come up 35 millimeters, and they're going to start this slot that's 30 wide. But if they already start this dimension and they get it off just a little bit, like it's a fraction more or less than 35. And then if they pull from that point to the next point, which is 30, what they've done is you get what I call tolerance stack up. It means they didn't hit the dimension exactly right. Then they based the next point off that dimension, which is now slightly inaccurate, and you're starting to stack up problems essentially. You're starting to have this tolerance stack up, which can drastically make parts unacceptable. So the way like ASME would like you to avoid this, and GD&T and really part specific control is going to say, actually, it's better to pick this to this, and this is a size and location kind of doing both. And now I'm always going to be 65 to that point, no matter what the tolerance happened with the 35. So now I'm not like getting a tolerance stack up. I'm actually getting the 30, but the caveat to that, which is hard to understand, is maybe the 30 is more critical. And so there would be a reason for me to say the 30 is the critical, the 35 is not critical. So I would have to, so sometimes the relationship comes to knowing the parts, like how it actually is working and what point is critical. That kind of matters. And we are always in a vague world where we don't know which one is the most critical. In real engineered applications, you generally will have one that is most critical. There aren't these vagueness is usually defined by the actual how the part is used. And so where we deal with a little bit like we don't know what is best, in the real world, you generally will know. There is going to be some more critical dimensions than others in how parts relate and fit together. And so that kind of lends itself, especially when you see a part in an assembly and how the other parts work with it. That is usually what drives where the accuracy has to be held. So I don't know here for sure, but this is kind of like, the other way is good. This is maybe a better because it's not chain dimensioning. And that's one thing that's pointed out on your rubrics is like avoid chain dimensioning. This functions as a size and location now. I'm 35 up and then I'm 65 to the next point. It's a dual serving dimension there. So maybe it's better. What's that? This is what I like better. Long story short, yeah. It's 10 the first one and then 6 in between, or use your auto command. Yep, yep. 10 and 6. Yep. 10 and 6. 6 and 2. Oh, that's driving. Wait. 10 and 2. Driving. That's what it is. 6 and 2 is probably turning a corner. Let's see. So that's kind of size and location. I feel good about this. That's size and location of that feature. We can analyze the same thing with this whole a size and location. So its size needs to be called out. The only places that it's available is in this front view. So this is a diameter size. This is one that I would probably pull off and away from any other dimensions that I have. There's only one. I mean, there are two of these, but they're kind of separate features. Kind of you could say by two, and that would work, and that could infer that. But I think I will probably put its own size over here, and I think I'm going to add the words through though. That's on our other print, and so if I can get in and add that somewhere, double click just right to the end. I might put it on the next line down, but you could put it on the next line over too. It doesn't usually if I determine to keep it in line or to drop to the next line, it's only if I have room for whichever. Like it doesn't really matter right or wrong. I could drop the through underneath if I didn't have space to keep it horizontal, but I would put a space between them. So either that or over and under is fine. Um, so that one's through. I just need to locate it now. So that's the size. Here's the location is going to be from some datum over. And I think I'm probably going to pull from this. I mean, we're kind of establishing a pretty hard datum with this, even though it's the left side. It's kind of working, lending itself to me. I'm using the bottom surface where it appears as a line as kind of a datum here. I'm going to start using this left side as a datum. I'm already using it there. So I'm going to say this one to the whole center, right, is going to be one of the location dimensions. And I'm not worried about cleaning them up until I'm done here. And then sometimes what I do worry about while I'm cleaning up is just that I usually pull my extension lines away. That's going to give me some evidence that this thing is going to have to like reach out and touch the extension line. So I just grab the grip. Yeah, but that's a bunch of stuff overlapping here, but that's okay. Really, the plotter is probably going to do the work for us, but it's going to prioritize line thickness. This is obviously, I'm going to clean this up when I get around to it, but that's one location. The other location is going to be up. So I think I'm going to move these out That's why I didn't like truly, I think I did put a 10 millimeter on the 35, but I think I'm going to get it out of there now because I feel like this is the other dimension I want is from kind of this corner out to this center, but I'm going to pull it this way. So that's going to be probably the most intermediate dimension. It's probably the one that I could base my 10 millimeter, but really, I generally don't do this until I'm ready to, and if it still crowds it at 10 millimeter, I'll pull it away a little further even. And then I'll just adjust my extension lines a little bit. So there's size and location for one hole. Size and location, good. And this needs to reach out and grab that though. Yep, I extended the center line to the extension line, not the other way around. Yep. And then I've got this other feature here too. I think I'm going to bring that up to the top. It's using the same datums that these are using. This one's using down here, up here, the left side surface where it appears as a line. So I think I'm going to pull the 75 right here. It's the only place it shows up. It does show up here. I could pull it here. I could pull 75. So now I'm just looking at, okay, another feature is just now features are definitely holes and notches. Like I've been dealing with those. But maybe if I'm looking at my front side surface as a feature, I don't totally have its size. Like this surface, that's the frontmost surface, it has a size associated with it. I haven't really defined it. I've defined its height here, but I haven't defined its width. And so I have the option of dropping a 75 here or here. I think I'm going to put it above. I think I'm going to put, or I could even put it here. Like I don't think there's one that's better than the other, but this is what I'm thinking of as a 75 here or down below. And you can tell I'm probably have crowded my views together a little bit. And so when that happens, I just have to probably start pulling stuff away just based off the space I have. So rather than redrawing everything but so this is 75. I just have the two options. I think I'm gonna put it there though. And eventually I'll fix these. I'm probably about running out of stuff that I need here, so I might bounce this one over this way. And then I might set it so I get an idea of what this is gonna. I kind of want to get an idea of how much room I really have to work with here if I'm doing my spacing right. So I'm gonna at least get an idea of what these look like, spaced with my auto spacing. See, they're coming out clear to there. Well, that doesn't quite look right to me. I feel like my auto spacing is kind of goofy today. I think it worked good for me yesterday, but these don't look as good today. I feel like I could be wrong and I should measure them, but I'm going to crowd these just a little bit more. 75. So that's that surface. This surface, I really haven't. I've got at least it's a foreshortened surface, so it's not a great place to dimension it even in this view because it is foreshortened. So I'm definitely not really concerned about dropping a dimension for this. I know it's surface that I can see in the front view, but it's definitely not a great place to dimension anything to it because it's sloping away from me. So I'm just gonna say maybe I'll leave that. Other than this little dimension would be nice to have here. I don't know where else I have it. I could put it over here, but I think I'm gonna add this dimension right here, which I think, oh yeah, this is probably an odd dimension. It never was a dimension we were given on our print, but so it's probably some odd. It's really driven by the slope more than anything. So I'm gonna drop it in there, and then I'm gonna get that dimension off that other one, like something like this. This is where I kind of like when it does that, is that I can tuck it away and back towards the view where it's from. This one is obviously I've come out too far, so I know it's gonna come closer like this, but. So I've got to remember in my mind, I've already kind of addressed the size of this in at least one direction. I can't get the other direction, so it's either got to go to the top or to the right side view. But I think I'm going to go to the top view now. I'm going to say I'm going to say I'm going to be happy with this, and let's move over to the top view, which I've already covered the depth there, so I don't need to redo it. I definitely don't know what these are here though, so I think I'm going to do those over here though. I feel like I already determined I was going to do the notch in the right side view, but this would be okay too, just like this was okay. I still need to adjust these a little bit, but I'll come back to that later. Let's look at what else is going on in here that I haven't mentioned. Well, I've got the 75 taken care of. I definitely don't have this 90. So I think I'm going to put in that this should be 90. I think, nope, I'm going to do that over here. So, oh, no, no, I've got to do that over here. I think I'm going to drop this one in above just because I don't have room in between, I don't think. If I did, it would be here. If I did it, it'd probably be like here to here is 90 if I pull it actually straight. So I could put that here. Yeah. What's that? It's just because I'm crowded. That's the main reason, right? It's the crowding that I've caused by my placement between views. So this is going to have to be okay. So maybe it's not the best, but it's good. That's 90. I've already got the part details broken out that way. I've determined I don't have this. It might be a nice to know. So I could add that. This is still a good dimension because I'm really pulling from that left side datum. You can see that this surface where this the surface that appears as a line here is definitely becoming a great place to pull dimensions. I'm pulling another one here, so to me it would be a great place to pull this. That really I'm pulling from the same datum from the front view to the top view. I'm using the same surface where it appears as a line. And that's kind of an oddball thing, but it's a dimension. It's kind of a point location rather than an angular location, and it wasn't given in my to work from, but I can kind of clearly see it now that it would be handy to know that. Maybe it's a reference dimension in some cases, which will become in parentheses, and we can build a dimension style that already is populated to be a reference type dimension. But we don't have that yet, so I'm not going to worry about reference dimensions yet. But I'm going to just drop it in as a normal dimension. And we've already got the length associated with it. I'm not going to really dimension much on this surface because it's also foreshortened in my view. Like it's nothing that I would dimension from here to here is really of any benefit because of that foreshortened slope that's happening that I can't even tell from this view. I just avoid dimensioning foreshortened views, foreshortened surfaces. They're just not helpful. I have to dimension them where they exist. So I could put in the degree of miter. I don't think it would be wrong to put in the degrees of miter. Um, and we haven't used any angular dimensions yet, but like I say, I use them sparingly. And in this case, I'd probably only have two that I'm applying. So it's not like and I had almost view them as more of a reference dimension as well. Like if I really had these points to, if the features of like this notch were really critical where the points figured, then I'm definitely going to do the X and Y point to point locating. And I'm not going to rely on like the miter dimensions to help me solve where those are. But I might put in the miter dimensions as a reference dimension because it's nice to know. I always actually appreciated, like as a fabricator, having some angular dimensions, even though maybe ASME says, they're not, they should be maybe reference only. But I actually liked them. I knew that this was 30 degrees. That's kind of handy. It seems like I might pull this. If you pull it far enough away, I think it'll create the space between it. If it's really tight, it'll keep the dimension there and put the line through it, which is it's good. It's not maybe the best, but yeah, this would probably become a reference dimension in the future, but right now we'll just leave it as a dimension. But it's definitely just more reference material. And then this width I could probably get here, like this depth of this piece here. It's the one that I never did, and it's weird because I can put that one in as a 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter is not long enough for a four, so I've got to pull that out further than 10. But what do we got going on here? So that takes care of at least the size of that little rectangular front. I don't need to put any dimensions for it down here. I've already taken care of it. It's this high and it's this deep, that front surface. So I don't even need to worry about that surface when I get down here. That's taken care of. And I just need the whole, yeah, I need the whole size. So I need this one as a size, right? And then I'm going to have to pull some other dimensions. So I don't know where this is going to end up. I'm just going to snap it because I need it. And I also need it to probably say through. And it looks to me like second line through is going to potentially work better. And then yes, you're right. That's the size of the location. I think I'm going to use this corner as my location. So um I'm analyzing that I'm pulling a lot of dimensions from that left side that I've determined. So I'm going to say that that's going to be a good one to pull the location dimension here too. It's going to be 40 millimeters. Yep. This 90 is going to end up being on the other side of that. Just out of the way for a minute. 40 in one direction. Let me get the extension and center lines working better. And then I need from this side. So before I would put in the next location, what my mind would do would be like have I already kind of established a good datum from front to back? Like, have I pulled any dimensions from either the front surface or the back surface? Well, in this view, I've actually pulled a dimension from the back surface. So I've kind of already started like a control hold on this a little bit, like I'm pulling a dimension from it. So maybe that's the best. So in this view, maybe this is, I'm kind of establishing the back as a sort of datum. I mean, I'm definitely establishing a point to pull dimensions from. So should I pull this dimension from there or should I pull it from here up? And the argument would be, well, I don't know if I've pulled any dimensions from front, as I've definitely pulled left side and I've pulled dimensions off the bottom. I really haven't pulled any from the front. So really, to me, the better selection would obviously be maybe the smaller number, is what you would think. But really, I'm actually analyzing, because if I pull my argument here is if I pull from this to the center, now I'm establishing another datum kind of. Maybe I can just use what I've already got. So when we start to, like when we really look at inspecting and controlling parts, I try to minimize how many datums I'm using. Like I try to use, because it's datums become these really hard controlled surfaces, their flatness, how smooth they are. Like I can establish all kinds of real specific control on datums. So I don't want to make extra part labor to make every surface on a part a datum that I'm pulling dimensions from. I try to actually then look in the future and say there are better things to pull from. And really, in this situation where it might be obvious that I wouldn't pull from here to here, it would be a legit good location dimension. But in this case, this one is a better one. Um, from this point to this one. And that may seem obvious, but I'm just saying that the reason why it's obvious to me is because I've already used this as a control kind of surface. So I've got two dimensions that are using it now, so maybe it's going to become a datum in the future. The reality is sometimes after you've analyzed a part really, really for serious control hold, think of aerospace. Once I've really analyzed a part, I'm going to try to now analyze a part with what are the real critical holds, which datums. And a lot of parts will have two, three. If I'm getting beyond three datums and I've got like four different control holds, I am making the people that make these parts work extra hard to even establish more datums. So you'll see this coming up. I never prevent, I never, I know I talk about it sooner than later. That way, when we come into actually talking about it, you're like, oh man, he's been talking about that all freaking years. So now I'm using it. And so I try to start talking about it sooner than later. I like this. Hole size and location has been kept good. These are really quite long. This is 120 millimeters of hole down through that. That's pretty long. And so there, in the future that I may have to control how straight the axis of that hole is from the top surface to the bottom surface. What if my bit varied, or what if I was hand drilling it rather than mill lathing it by a machinist? Well, there's a huge difference in accuracy, and in the future, we'll also hold like how symmetrical or how cylindrical this hole could be. There's a lot of constraints I can put on that to control it. And long, deep holes, I have to maybe control a little bit more accurately, but not right now. Just that'll work. It's just hold it straight and through. Okay. I like that. I don't know if there's any features. I think I'm going to look at the notch features now. I've taken account that this is 75 by. I don't know what this is yet. I definitely have it 75. So I'm gonna come over here and definitely worry about the notch here, which is going to take care of quite a few more dimensions. But I think I'm going to pull from this one here. I think I'm going to pull from front or back. This is where the argument that I was just making makes a difference. Where do I pull my dimensions from for this notch? Well, I've actually established the back as a better datum in the top view. So if I start pulling dimensions from the front view, I'm now establishing both front and back as like critical holds. So technically I might pull this direction. The argument could be that your front view should definitely be a datum, and that's definitely a good point. This would be stacking dimensions, right? Like if I kept doing this as chain dimensioning, I get the same problem with this notch as I would here. So I'm probably going to pull this from point to point from the same position here. There to there is the better dimension. If I want to know the distance across the gap, this one is handy. I think this is a good to know. Mathematically, I can figure it out, but if I were to use this one, I would definitely use it as a reference dimension in parentheses. Like it's a nice to know, but maybe it's not the hard control point, but it falls into the same category as this. Which one is more critical? I actually don't know. So I'm just going to go with this. With this, I can figure out that the rest is 50. So I've got, and they're all pulling from maybe this back side, which is what these ones were pulling from. So I'm just going to leave mine like this. And then I need the depth of that though. Everywhere else, the depth appears as a hidden line here. So I'm gonna definitely pull the depth, and maybe I'll pull it from the top surface down or the bottom surface up. Probably the bottom surface up, surprisingly. I'd probably pull this right here to here as the even though in the on your sheet it says 25, and yeah, that would be fine in week one of dimensioning, but I'm telling you that the bottom is definitely a good datum of most all parts. It's going to sit against a jig and fixture in any really critical environment. When this part got analyzed and inspected, it's probably going to sit flat on its bottom. It's going to be the first datum it's going to be established. So this to me is a better dimension than top down. In fact, if you'll notice, I don't think I've done any other top-down dimensions here, right? I've done bottom up, bottom up, bottom up, bottom up, bottom up, bottom up, bottoms up. It's weekend. Nope. So I'm going to start cleaning it up, I think. So I feel like in this particular drawing, my 10 millimeter, I can tell my 10 millimeter offset is just a little tight, is what I find. So I'm pulling it out just a little bit beyond 10. You could put in another number, but I've also got to work with what space I have. So what I'm doing is like some space alignment. I think I'm not, I don't know if I'm totally done. I think I'm totally done. 10 millimeter as the first intermediate dimension, and then 6 millimeter thereafter. But I'd almost argue that I've got a problem with I don't know what I've
You're
got.
not gonna be doing drawing, so.
Right now, yeah, this is when I kind of take a good over. I think there's one more that I would probably add, and it would probably be another reference dimension, an angular one. Like I think the only one I really haven't accounted for is maybe just that nice to know angle from top down, that's why it's definitely a reference dimension. This one maybe. That might be the last one I'd populate here.
I just didn't want to miss.
I did. They're different 30s, right? One's top down and the other one's from front to back, kind of. So yeah, and they would in the future become absolute reference. Just nice to know is not necessarily, don't base my machine off it.
Do you have anywhere the
Which other one am I missing?
you did?
Let's see here. From the temp, this is a good one to check too. Is that I'll bring back up this and wonder this 90. Yeah, I do have it. It's like I think it's in my top view above my right there. It's bundled and jammed in there. Yeah. And I've even added that extra one that's going to be nice to know. Yeah, and that's a good point. You could bring this up and feel like, have I done all these? Yeah, I've maybe changed that one from 30 to a different one from bottom up to it. And then I've got the 120. I've got it that's 20 in. 50s I'm accounting for in the other side, in the right side view. 25 down, I kind of changed to come off the bottom. 75 I didn't put in because it was kind of it's a reference dimension potentially. So I pulled it from point to point across the right side view. That one. Yeah. So actually I definitely have all these accounted for, and I just kind of slightly modified them to a better control. Yeah. And this one, yeah, go ahead. Have a go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I did it like the long way. Can you connect to the center line or is that like any kind of dimension?
No, you can dimension yeah, absolutely. This would be a legit place to pull from like a surface to the center line is great. Yeah, your center lines are like as good as datums as a surface is. Yep. So they're a great place for any dimensioning really. And I've kind of used them. I've just used them in the center mark area rather than this where they go through, but it would be, with doing that, you only get one dimension, then you have to look at a different view to get the other one, right? And so that's fine. That is good. You know, this is that bundle and save type concept, but it's not, but it's just one view. Yep. But so if I was to locate that hole, I could absolutely use this center line, especially if I feel like I've got too much congestion. I could decide, okay, I'm going to do surface to center line here. That's going to kind of be my X direction. I would just need to worry about its height, right? And I would capture that here or something. Yeah. Or even over here. I could capture the height here. So it would just be two different views, and it would make my person do a little bit more searching in my drawing. And that does happen from time to time. So look for the bundle and save feature. It doesn't always work out, but I just know that also it's not working out as like 10 millimeters is tight. Maybe that will work, but in fact, I might need that to be that tight for this particular spacing here. My question is if my auto spacing is actually correct. Maybe I need to enter 6 in that and just see, because I don't think that's picking up. That's 24. What did I do here? I don't know. Am I on the quarter scale? This could be what, maybe I think I'm in the A4 template. I'm actually going to go look at this. This is the difference in an A4 template and a quarter scale. That's why maybe I'm struggling. If you're in, this is, so I've just kind of realized my issue is that I'm looking at a quarter scale on my A4. This is where I told you, like, I can tell that I'm going to need to scale up this because my dimensioning is getting really congested. And so I'm going to look at this in an A3 template. And I thought that I had, oh no, what have I done? I don't know what I've done. It's happening on yours. I thought that this should apply to both this should apply to both my dimensions here to there. It's funny that maybe I just need to like unlock this for a minute and turn on. Oh, okay. If this happened to you and you don't have it, these are called annotative objects. Your dimensions are annotative scale. You remember down on the status bar, we have the two windmills. The one with the lightning bolt is that it'll automatically adjust when I adjust my scale. The other one, if it's off, has the circle in the windmill. That is on and off the annotative object. So this is all you need to do to make those appear. And really these two layouts are independent of each other, right? So they're just like they only know like I had it on in the A4, but I didn't have it on in the A3. So just when in doubt and stuff is disappearing, look to the windmill.
What terrible things I do to make fun of my.
Well, is it like
Annotation fail is messed up.
well, I don't know. Like I'll come and look at it here, and I might just push a pause. I'm just going to finish my cleanup here. So this probably fits in between now that I actually have my scale adjusted right. So 10's a little bit still tight for this, so I'm going to pull it just a little bit more away. That's good. 50 needs to come in. This one I'll probably just bring up in alignment with that. Like I feel like this one I could bring in a long ways. I could kind of adjust this just closer and more precise than having this big long leader that I don't need. But it does get annoying because it almost shows its last placement and where you're wanting to move it to. And sometimes the auto, I mean, it gets annoying. I agree. Like that's why the hack drafter just leaves it as it was first put on and doesn't clean it all up. But we are not that. We look at dimensions like they're art. That'll work. Got the height over there. That's good. Yeah, I can fit this in between too. I just want to space it. Moral of the story is focus on size and dimensioning and then focus on cleaning up later. And that's when you actually end up starting to move dimensions if needed. So don't get hung out on how they fit until you really know that you have everything on there that you want. I feel like that's the biggest problem that students have is they want to get them like perfectly adjusted and you're like, wait, there could be like 40 more dimensions that you're gonna have to consider. So just and this one I'm going to probably drag in as tight as I can until it probably stays in between. Like I could let it jump out or whatever, but I tend to, with my angular measurements, I tend to do, I like the arrows to be in if I can, and maybe as tight to the arc as I can rather than way out here like I had it. So I feel like I'm just going to tighten this up as a preference here, just to keep it a little cleaner, a little less distraction. Anything out beyond that is just kind of wasted. Like this one is kind of waste, right? Like it's just kind of sloppy. This is better to drag this in like that. Obviously, we'll put those in parentheses in the future when we create that dimension style, but right now that'll work. Yeah, this is going to be great here. I think I messed up that. Every once in a while, if you're moving these around and if you grab the arrow, I mean, these dimensions can be kind of funny. They have arrow grips, they have endpoint of extension line grips. If you end up getting the arrow grip over the top of the extension line grip, it is hard to figure out which one to grab again. So in that case, I try not to let that happen. I tend to move my dimensions a lot by the actual digit grip that's on there. It just seems to be easier for me to like not when I line up the arrows is usually when I have multiple that are in the same like kind of chain dimensioning style, which I kind of try to avoid. But there are times when I use it, and I will sometimes grab the arrow grips to make sure they're aligned. That when we do that, it may make sense. I don't really have much of that going on in this particular drawing, but auto dimension. And then I've got one more here out on the end. The 10, a little bit further in that vertical position, you don't have quite as much room. 10 millimeters is a little bit close in a vertical position with four numbers. Works fine for 2 or 3, but this one's kind of oddball clear out here. Let's get that thing tidied up a little bit. Could I put it over here? Maybe I might bundle this in here actually. I'm kind of happy with this. I'm gonna jump back out and just take another look at my. I did all my line type of scale adjustment, maybe potentially on the wrong sheet. I need to hit save. I haven't hit save in a while, but yeah, this thing is getting to the end here. Date that. 26. I still think I'm okay. I don't mind those line type scales. They're good. It's all done. Maybe I'll do a control P plot, see how it looks. You guys have a good weekend. Heck yes.